I wanted to share the advice that I needed 5 years ago. I am not going to gain or lose anything from any decisions that you make based on my advice, but I did want to share what the beginning of my 20s has been like. I graduated from UC Berkeley in December of 2020 during the pandemic, and I studied a degree in data science, which was so up and coming at the time. I ended up working in management consulting for the last 5 years. And in March of this year, I quit my job in order to pursue a career change from management consulting to content creation, acting, and becoming a barista. So I have a lot to say when it comes to how to survive a job that you don't like, because I did that for 5 years. We're gonna cover 5 topics today, so if at any point you wanna skip ahead, go ahead and look at the description box and you'll see timestamps. So we gotta start off with talking about burnout. I think this is a very natural question that came up for me when I was navigating it, was how do I even know I'm burnt out? Am I just tired? Do I just need a little break? I want to start by challenging the idea that burnout and being tired are all that different. I think the degree of severity is different, but the effect is the same. I want you to ask yourself, do I feel like I am brute forcing my life? There's a version of your life where everything that you do requires discipline. You wake up early at a certain time, you check off your to-do list, things that are both for work and for yourself. But then the quality of your day depends on whether or not you accomplish those tasks. And when you're falling short, you think that you're not doing enough. There's a version of your life where you feel like you have to push yourself in order to get what you want. On the other hand, there's a version of your life where you allow things to come to you. Instead of the mindset of, I'm not enough and I need to push myself to be more, it comes from a place of, I am enough and I need to allow what's meant for me to come to me. You know for yourself which version of that life you're living and whether your job is part of that. If you are a really conscientious, very disciplined type of person, it is possible for you to take a break and then go back and work even harder, and you can do that for a long period of time. But that doesn't mean that the impacts to your health and the life you want to live don't exist. So if you're constantly giving up regular healthy habits in order to be able to make a job work, I would say that's more of an unsustainable lifestyle, and you will feel the effects of that over time. If you feel like your job is serving you to get the things that you want in life and you're able to balance that with the things that matter to you, then you know yourself best. Maybe all it is that you do need some rest and you're not burnt out. If you search up the difference between burnout and being tired online, you'll get things that kind of explain the difference, but I just would argue that if you're tired all the time, it's the same thing as being burnt out. It's more about how long you've been tired and whether you feel up to the task of recovering from it. Then the question that comes after that is more about the fulfillment side of things, like, do I get what I want out of my job? And the first step of that is really just knowing yourself. I feel like this question came more naturally to me because I grew up in an environment where everyone cared a lot about their career, even at a young age. Growing up in Silicon Valley, I feel like a lot of people ask you just like what you're gonna be when you grow up, and I know that's common in a lot of areas, so that's not unique, but it did come naturally to think about for myself, like, what am I passionate about? And I know that's not an easy question for a lot of people. In fact, it can be really daunting if you feel like you aren't passionate about anything. But I want you for a moment to divorce your answer of like what matters to your career from the money and lifestyle side of things, and just first think about what you want to do with your time. Actually, when I was in, I want to say middle school and high school, we had to take this career aptitude test, and it wasn't really about like what you're skilled at, though that can be something you consider. It was more around like, what do I enjoy doing with my time? And I really think that paves the way for understanding yourself more. So it's a quiz that has a bunch of questions that ask you whether you would enjoy doing certain tasks, and it ends up telling you what type of fields might interest you based on the tasks that you enjoy. Maybe you feel like you don't have a dream job because you don't dream of labor, and that's so valid. I hear that so much. I would ask yourself what you would do if you could retire today. Not worry about money anymore, Would you go travel? Would you work on your garden? Or like maybe you enjoy cooking, learn to do some cooking, or just do a lot of self-exploration? I think those questions are really important because no matter what you do for leisure or work, it does require effort. It is some form of work. And oftentimes, it helps to reframe those activities that we don't think of as work and realize how much effort really goes behind it. And there is likely a form of the activities you enjoy that is monetizable. We don't like to often think about it that way because the purpose is really for us to enjoy life, but it helps us to think about what kind of work we would enjoy. So what would you do if you could retire? Would you go to Italy and learn to make pasta? Would you pick up painting? Would you go spend a lot of time in nature? Just really get to know yourself beyond the finances part, and then you can add those elements of like, what lifestyle do I dream of and how much money do I need to sustain that lifestyle? Those things you can layer on top of it. Then going back to that question of, can I get what I want out of my current workplace? It's time to see how well that workplace lines up with your values. You probably clicked on this video because you are feeling in some ways really overwhelmed by your work and feeling burnt out, or you just want to understand what ways you can make things better. And that is the first place to start, is can I improve my current situation? Because let's face it, unless you've already given your 2 weeks notice, you're gonna be at this job at least a bit longer, and you should think about what benefits it has to offer you and enjoy that. If you're working really, really hard, can you do the bare minimum and accept those consequences? Maybe it means you won't be promoted for a while, but is that something you can accept if it means doing less? Are you okay with also disappointing people a little bit because maybe they expect more out of you? But if you're able to communicate what you can and can't do, are you okay with setting those boundaries and accepting the judgment that people place on you? If you're having a lot of difficulty prioritizing your needs, such as getting enough sleep, or getting your exercise in, eating your meals, can you set those boundaries in a meaningful way at work? In some workplaces, it is really difficult, and I understand that. Sometimes you feel like you set boundaries and they get stepped all over. Can you talk to your manager and be honest about what's happening and see if that situation can be improved? I do feel like it's pretty dependent on the people you work with and how willing they are to accept your boundaries. But if you haven't tried it and it's something that's really bugging you, like, it is worth the effort, because the alternative, of course, is to walk away. If you aren't seeing the growth in your career that you want to be seeing, can you be placed on projects or switch internally to get the growth that you're looking for? These questions are worth asking no matter how fed up you feel with your job, because oftentimes we do need to think about getting as much beneficial things out of your job as possible. Again, unless you've already put in your 2 weeks notice, you're probably going to need to spend some time, and maybe it's not exactly the direction that you want to go, but can you get even an inch closer in that direction that you want to go? Or even if you're only getting one more afternoon in which you're not overwhelmed, like can we buy back a little bit of that time? It's all we're thinking about. Now you've thought about what you want, and you've thought about whether or not your current workplace will be able to help you. If you've established that it is necessary to have an exit plan, the next question is, how do I craft that exit plan? Regardless of how you end up approaching it, know that your ability to ask and accept help from others will be an asset and not a weakness here. You probably already think about this if you have thought about leaving your job, but the job search game has been completely changed in the last few years. There's so much technology that's in the mix now, and the things that will make you stand out are really your humanity and human-to-human connection in a world where AI is supporting both the job seekers and the people hiring. It's really messy. You could send a bunch of applications and they'll just get hurled into a black hole, or you can have conversations. And in this world, your best assets really your people. There's two main ways that you can think about going about a career pivot. The first way is to pivot 1 to 2 steps from your current role. So if you're a data analyst and you want to go into marketing, can you pivot first to marketing analytics and then go to marketing from there? Or you could find a marketing role within the same industry, and because you have that industry experience, that gives you a leg up. Usually you can find one way to pivot, whether that's your industry or your field, trying to change too many of these things at once is going to be really challenging. But don't, limit yourself. The main way that you're going to make progress is by talking to people and sharing with them what you're looking for. And there's a lot of information out there on how to network, so learn a new skill. The second way, and the way that I have approached things, is to just take a clean break. This is if you can't find a path to get to where you want within a couple of pivots, and you really just need to build a new career from the ground up. The way I recommend approaching this is by planning for it financially. It is not easy to make a career change unless you already have the skills for it, and if you already have the skills for it, then it's not really a huge shift. But I'm assuming that there are things that you need to build, such as experiences and skills, so you will need to plan for that financially. I've created a worksheet and I'm linking it in the description below to help you estimate what finances you would need in order to make that pivot. This is how I thought about it, and I hope the worksheet helps you too. I do recommend thinking about your lifestyle, how you want to sustain that, and what your next career will look like, and then creating buffer so that you're not really in a stressful position trying to pivot to the next thing. In fact, I would say I'm probably even more risk adverse in this way because I saved money for 5 years before I felt comfortable quitting my job to pivot. Somebody else might be able to do that with much less, but it's totally a personal question at the end of the day. So you've come up with your exit plan. Now you have to find a way to survive in the meantime because maybe you need to save some more money. So here are my tips on survival. And I'll be honest, it's not going to be easy because if it were easy, that would mean your job is already sustainable. We've already established that the job is not sustainable, and that's why you need to do a pivot. The difficulty of these is just going to differ depending on who you are and how challenging you find your current situation. I found consulting to be really difficult because it is super demanding. It's a really demanding lifestyle, and there were specific things about the firm I worked at that I felt like I had to navigate, like certain expectations about how dedicated I would be. But the number one thing I would say that was helpful for me was romanticizing my lifestyle. And this is actually really accessible. There is so much corporate girly content out there, and that is the thing that I felt would help me keep going when it was really difficult. So I really liked looking at other corporate girls who are making content. I really enjoy productivity content and motivational videos, so the ones where people are getting up at 6 a.m. to get a lot of work done or study with me. Just something that would help me romanticize the hustle. And I would agree that hustle culture is toxic in a lot of ways, but the idea that my current lifestyle was something that people aspired to and that I could feel proud of myself for working hard and also enjoy the benefits of having that stable income, or knowing when I would get my paycheck and treating myself in ways that all these corporate girlies were doing online, that made me feel a lot better, even though I knew that I would eventually make a pivot. It was really helpful for me to romanticize being that girl. I also was constantly working toward things that I really enjoyed, so I picked up content creation, and that also helped me to romanticize my life more because I was also creating content about my life. I personally really enjoy creative outlets, but I know other people also lean in toward physical outlets such as exercise, a sport that you really enjoy, creative outlets like crafting, things that are kind of repetitive and help you to unwind after work. All of those things are really important. For some time, I was waking up at 6 a.m. and it wasn't something that I could sustain forever because in the consulting firm I worked at, you were often expected to work late nights and take late night meetings with offshore teams. But in the span that I could wake up at 6 a.m. and go to the gym before work, it really helped because then when I woke up, the first thing I did in my day was for myself and not for my work. And then by the time I got to my desk and got started with work, I had already done something for myself, and it was often a physical release. I felt a lot more relaxed, and I felt a lot more at peace to take on whatever there was in my day. I've tried leaving myself little inspirational sticky notes, but to be honest, that didn't really help very much. The other thing you can do to really help survive at the job you're at is something I'm a little less good at, but I often received a lot of advice from others to do this, which is get really good at managing your boundaries. And in ways that people don't often explicitly say, like if you are working at a company that it's normal practice for you to like put blocks on your calendar for when you have like errands that you're gonna run, or if you just need a break throughout the day, like really take advantage of those personal blocks. If people ask you, just say you have like a doctor's appointment or dentist appointment or something. My friend mentioned to me that he'd use that excuse all the time and always get away with it, and always use up your sick days. I'm not so good at this because I feel like really bad when I actually have to use sick time for when I'm sick, but if you can, use up your sick time because you're not going to get paid out for it. I guess these things only apply if you have dedicated sick days and vacation days, but point being, like, take time for yourself and protect it because nobody else is going to protect it for you. But if you are protective of it, people will catch on and they will just respect those boundaries in most cases. The last topic I want to talk about is probably the longest topic, and it's how do I deal with the emotional things that are keeping me from making some change in my life? Whether that's quitting my job in order to make a pivot or just making the pivot itself, because often that just requires a lot of effort and change on your part. So honestly, you will have a very different tolerance level for some of these like thoughts that might come up. These are just the ones that I experienced and what I learned about them. But maybe you're just not affected by some of these points, or maybe some of these are especially challenging for you. The first one is that I am afraid of being judged by people, whether that's my parents, my friends, my peers. This especially applies to me because I'm pivoting from consulting and the corporate world to acting, so it kind of feels like I'm running off to join the circus. I was particularly afraid of how my parents would react because they had a big role in what I decided to study and how I approached my academics and my career. For me personally, my parents are also a lot less risk tolerant than I am, so they're a lot more afraid of failure. And their tolerance of the things that I hated about my job seemed a lot higher than I could tolerate. So I did anticipate that they would react poorly, and I was right. But here are some of the things and advice that I heard. So my friend had good advice when it came to parents especially, which is, we're all gonna outlive our parents. So we'd better not make choices based off of what they want for us and then have resentment toward them later, whether that's in a few years or even much later in life. After working 5 years in a career I didn't like, and also studying a major that I kind of regretted later on, you just have to say enough is enough sometimes, because at the end of the day, it's your life. I think like everyone says that, and there's just no better way of putting it. Like, your parents are not the ones waking up every day and living your life. And that applies to any of your friends and peers or anyone who's judging you for like what type of choice you want to make with your career. A second thought that I've had often is this fear of failure. Like, I don't think I can find anything better. And oh my god, I experienced this so much because throughout my 5 years of consulting, I spent most of it trying to job search for another corporate role, very on and off, because I did a series of like final interviews and those didn't pan out into opportunities, so that really bummed me out, and then I would lose motivation. So that definitely put a toll on how confident I felt in myself to be able to like pivot in my career. But there are a few recurring thoughts that I had that helped me through this and have led me to continue working on my career. The first is that everyone at the end of the day has to work to survive. People are able to do that somehow. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's like, if the person who has a lot less experience is able to survive, like put food on the table and pay rent by doing some job, like they got that job somehow, and it means that I can too. Everyone has to work to survive, so it's only a matter of time before I find my next opportunity. The second way I combated this was by looking at my past experience and really just saying like, I got this far somehow and I can get further. This is especially the case if you have gone so far in a career that you don't even like. You can get so much farther in a career that you actually like. Just take the fact that you are surviving as proof that you can keep surviving. And then the third way that I just kept refocusing is understanding my why, especially if you do have a dream career, then it doesn't really matter like how long it takes for you to get there. You're just gonna want to do it. And then maybe along the way you have adventures and side quests and stuff, doing things that are not your dream career, but that's okay. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Another negative thought that I would often get, and I would actually hear this from other people too, is this idea of I'm throwing away all my progress. I'm throwing away the degree I worked so hard for and paid a lot of money for. So I'm gonna tell you what my partner says all the time, which is that a free beating is still a beating. This entire thing is sunk cost fallacy, which is the thought that because you've already invested so much, that if you just keep investing, you'll get your returns out of the decision you made. The funny thing about having a degree in 2026 is that's kind of a bare minimum thing now, and most people are not even doing work that aligns with their degree. You have people who studied sociology and are now in corporate jobs doing marketing. People who studied biology are now data scientists. It's a tool at the end of the day, but like I studied data science and then I ended up in management consulting and barely used much of what I learned in my degree. Truthfully, these days your work experience and how you use your degree, if you do use it, is much more important and interesting than what your degree was. And for me, knowing that I would have to apply so much more effort to even make what I studied lucrative is really what kept me from constantly trying to pursue that, because I knew it wouldn't make me that much happier. I mean, you know you. And I would also ask yourself, like, is there a way for me to make my progress applicable? Because I'm switching from consulting to acting, and that feels really irrelevant. But I do really want to teach acting students someday at like a university level. And so for me, having the experience of working in a corporate setting and being really detail oriented and really analytical is like a really unique experience that I can share with my students in the future. Like they will benefit from me making that pivot and being able to share my realistic story of how that happened. And maybe it just supports you in your personal life. Like I found myself being a lot more organized and detail oriented, and I like have a lot more confidence in my ability to break down a project into its different steps, and that's just going to benefit me in my own life. Concern number 5 is I'm afraid of how the world is headed, and that's such a valid concern. But at the same time, humans constantly way overestimate how much we can predict of the future, and as much as it like seems helpful to try and predict what's going to be advantageous, like unless you can actually action it, like it's probably just another thing that you're worrying about. For me, I live in San Francisco where like everyone is concerned about AI, how we can integrate AI into work, and like what the future will look like. And like I studied data science, but like I don't feel like an expert on this. What I do know is that there are things such as like human touch that I bring to any work that I do that cannot be replaced by AI. So if I focus on that, that's what's going to differentiate me in the future. Chloe Xie actually made a really informative reel about the types of skills that humans bring to jobs that AI can't replace, and it involves skill sets such as curiosity, creativity, communication, courage, and compassion. And I thought it was super informative. I'm gonna link that below. So long story short is focus on what you can control. The last thought that I really had to overcome when deciding to quit my job was it's not a good time to quit my job. And there really is never a right time to quit your job because looking for a job is a lot easier when you are employed. That is, unless you really don't have time in a job search, which in that case maybe you can consider like taking vacation or taking unpaid break in order to work on your job search, but then that's also kind of a ticking time bomb if people know you're job searching. You really have to weigh the benefits of getting extra free time against the benefits you get from your job, obviously. But I will say, like, don't underestimate the value of the time in order to like upskill yourself and get started earlier on your next career. because there is a cost to like staying stagnant at a job where you aren't growing and is completely not what you want. Like your energy is not aligned with it. What really actually tipped the scales for me was seeing my friend quit. He was about the same tenure as me, and he just realized that life is too short. Like he told me as he was leaving, we need to learn to enjoy life more, and that means not just like working all the time. And if you feel a lot of like financial fear, the idea that like life is meant to be enjoyed and that you don't need to be working all the time might sound like irrational or might seem impulsive because there's like a way to get to where you want while still being employed. But honestly, seeing a lot of people leaving their jobs in this era of layoffs and AI really made me feel like it's possible for me too. Like I had to question myself why I believed in other people more than I believed in myself. Like why, if my friend got laid off, I would believe that they could find a job very quickly more than I believed in myself. Or if a friend left their career to go pursue a master's, like what made me believe that they could do it more than I believed in myself. I'd already proved that I could stay at the job for 5 years, so the thing that I needed to work on was proving to myself that I can leave and be okay. If you found this video helpful at all, I would totally appreciate if you give it a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!